the first few years that I was doing death penalty work, I never spoke out about it. I was just doing research, mostly on race and death sentencing. And I remember in July of 1984, I went through the last visits with a man named David Washington. And the last visits in Florida are behind glass from 8 at night until midnight. And then between midnight and 1 in the morning, the family gets to go behind the glass and hug their loved one and say goodbye and wipe the tears away and have a hug. And then at 7 in the morning, he's executed. So I was there until midnight behind glass, and then the family went behind. I was there with a lawyer, and his wife and his 2 daughters went behind the glass and hugged. And then at 1 o'clock, he was led down the hall, handcuffed behind his back with a guard on either shoulder, brought down to where 6 hours later he died in the electric chair. The attorney and I were left with the mother and the 2 children. One was 9 and the other was 11, going out the other side, the other way, out the corridor. In prisons, this is a prison built many years ago. They echo, the gates clang, especially in the middle of the night. They're spooky. Those children, when they saw their father being led down to the electric chair, were screaming, "Please don't kill my daddy," crying, sobbing, or hugging them. And it was echoing up and down the hall. And I just looked and thought, my God, if people knew what was going on, the reality of the death penalty, when we read the morning papers, we wouldn't be sipping our coffee and saying, oh, another person is executed. People would throw up.
The idea that a state can do that, can carry out an execution so coldly and so with such premeditation. And in Texas, there's a whole, and in every state that executes, they have procedures. I mean, it's clinical. They have professionals, and their job is killing people. And they do it, and they take you into a room and they give you an orientation before you're permitted to witness an execution. And they tell you what's going to happen, and they have escorts, and they escort you there. And the victim's family is permitted to watch, and in this case, the victim's family did watch the execution. There are reporters there who write down everything that happens. They write down your own reactions. Your client himself is strapped down to a bed, like a crucifix. It's like in a crucifixion position. And he's completely helpless. He's strapped down here. He's strapped across his legs. He's strapped across his arms. And he has a needle in his arm, and they suspend a microphone above his head so that he can give a last statement. And then they kill him. And then you have to watch as he dies. And everybody stands there, and the minutes just tick by, and it feels like an eternity. And at some point, someone goes over and takes his pulse, and they pronounce the moment of death, and they put a thing over his head. And then they escort you out, and then there's a big press conference. And people talk about it, and reporters write it down, and it's just incredibly surreal and incredibly barbaric. And it's the clinical aspect of the way that the executions are carried out that, for me, is so horrifying, and almost more horrifying, I think, in a way than the original crime that was committed, because it is done with such precision and such premeditation.
For instance, in China, in many ways, in many death sentences, it's an execution to the back of the head. Or, in some reports, we've found that with regards to the need for organs within China, people are executed via the removal of their organs. So they're alive and their bodies are surgically opened and certain organs are used for the organ donation market, which pretty much probably is the worst and most evil way to be executed. This policy has gained some critical assessment within the Chinese political system and judiciary, but essentially there has been, since at least, we don't know for sure because of the official secrets, but there are reports that since at least 2000, and especially in the Yunnan province, that there has been seen mobile trucks, and within them are gurneys, and within these mobile trucks the prisoners who are sentenced to death get taken within them, and within these trucks are doctors and healthcare professionals. And pretty much it goes like this. On the black market, when you cannot get access to an organ which you require and you're rich enough, for instance, you need a kidney, but your blood type isn't matching the possibility for the transplantation of a kidney from your country or in the European organ bank or in the United States. Well, you go to the black market if you want to. And then you can contact the black market in China and say, I have an A negative blood type and I need a kidney. And then what the Chinese authorities have reported to have done is they'll look at their prisoner list, who has an A negative and the appropriate kidney and is on death row. Now their execution date comes up because somebody needs an organ from Los Angeles. And so they are then taken to one of these mobile prison systems and then they will be executed and sometimes it has been reported through the removal of, so the actual execution, the method of execution is organ removal. So they die through the organ removal. And there has been, you can read the reports from the congressional debates of some doctors giving testimony that not only have they witnessed, some doctors have said that I actually did it and now I seek refuge after it because I don't want to do it anymore.
Legally, every death row prisoner has to be isolated from other inmates. So it's very strange, but prison law says each prisoner shall be isolated from each other. And only under the condition that if meeting each other would bring them a good effect, which means the mental stability of the prisoners, only in that case they can get together. But actually, no such a practice has been made in Japanese prisons. So they're very, very isolated, not only from the society, outside society, but isolated from other inmates, even inside the detention centers.
Los recreos, las salidas mínimas, 2 a la semana en Florida, en cada estado es diferente, yo te puedo hablar de Florida. 2 a la semana, durante un periodo de 2 horas, viene un martes, un jueves. Si llueve, no sales. Si está nublado, no sales. O sea, es como es. Al principio, trato por parte de los vigilantes fatal. Me pegaron el primer día que llegué y algunos días después y muchas veces en los primeros meses. El cuerpo se va acostumbrando y llega un momento, sinceramente, lo comento muy poco porque mi madre siempre cuando lo digo, ¿sabes? Se emociona, ¿no? Pero llega un momento que ya no duele tanto y tienes que hacer como que te duele para que te dejen de pegar.